So how is it that the greatest songwriters of all time were able to string together all these amazing chords in the most seamless and melodic way possible? Well, it has to do with a deeper understanding of what a chord really is beyond just a shape on your instrument. Guitarist! Ooh, sorry about that. In today's video, we're going to cover that understanding and get you up to snuff on everything you need to know about chords. Hey everyone, my name's Mike Hilbun and welcome to part 2 of my music theory video series covering everything you need to know to be a working musician. In our last video on scales, we started things off by talking about the building blocks that make them up. So to understand the building blocks that make up chords, we're going to have to take a second look at intervals. So as we've mentioned before, intervals are really just a unit of measurement when it comes to telling how far apart two pitches are. We mentioned how if two pitches are 4 notes apart, it's called a fourth. And if two pitches are 5 notes apart, it's called a fifth. So as you might be able to guess, a third is when two pitches are 3 notes apart in distance. However, it gets a little bit more complicated than that. Just as we had different types of seconds, major seconds and minor seconds, we have the same different types of thirds, major thirds and minor thirds. A major third is a distance of 4 half steps. A minor third is a distance of 3. And that's just about all there is to it. Now that we understand that, the magic can start to happen. Oftentimes, the first things people are taught to play on the guitar is chords. They're taught this shape, or that shape, or this shape. But while you're learning what the names of those shapes are, you're not really learning what a chord is. A chord is when 3 or more different notes sound at the same time, like this, or like this, or like this, or like this, like this, like this, and like this. Now the different notes that comprise the chord that's being played determines the sound or quality of that chord. Now for most of us, when I mention chords, we're not thinking about the last couple examples I played. Most popular music, whether it's pop, hip-hop, rock, country, or something similar, is predominantly written with a type of chord called triads. A triad is a specific type of chord comprised of 2/3 stacked above a root note. Since we're stacking 2/3 above a root note, and we have 2 types of thirds, major and minor, then that means that based on any given root note, there are 4 types of triads: major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Now I feel like it's important to mention that even though chord is a much broader term and triad is a more specific term, triads are the most basic type of chords, so people tend to use the word chord interchangeably for triad. So if somebody says a major chord, they're talking about a major triad, and vice versa. Let's talk about major and minor chords for a minute. To find the notes in a major chord, all you do is take any note, then stack a major third above it. Then we'll stack a minor third above that note. That accounts for all 3 notes in that major chord. It doesn't matter if you mix up the order of the notes or repeat some. As long as those 3 notes are present, it will sound like an E major chord. Let's check this out on the guitar. When you look at your standard open position E major chord, even though we're playing 6 notes on 6 strings, all of them are one of the 3 notes of that E major chord we just made. To find the notes in a minor chord, we'll do the reverse of what we did to find the notes in a major chord. We'll start with the same root note, then stack a minor third above it. Then we'll stack a major third above that. Notice how the only difference between the major and minor chord is the middle note, and it's only different by a half step. You'll find this to remain true regardless of what the root note is. The other 2 chord types I mentioned were diminished and augmented chords. Now we're not going to go too in depth with diminished and augmented chords, simply because this is a basic theory course and you won't find too many of these in most popular styles of music. However, I think it's important to mention them not only so our discussion of chord types can be complete, but so that you at least know what they are and what they sound like. But if you're interested in learning more about diminished and augmented chords, just let me know down in the comments. So let's jump in. Out of the 2 triad types left for us to discuss, diminished chords are the more common of the 2. They are made by stacking 2 minor thirds above a root note. Again, it doesn't matter what order they were found in or if you repeat notes. I'm going to play an example of a popular chord progression that contains a diminished chord. Unfortunately, due to copyright restrictions, I can't play any actual songs, so make sure you go check out some of the songs on this list. Augmented chords are the opposite of diminished chords. They're built by stacking two major thirds above a root note. Just as with all of our other chords, it doesn't matter if the order is mixed up or if notes are repeated. Here's an example of a chord progression containing an augmented chord. Again, I can't play any actual songs, so make sure you check out some of these tunes. Now that you know how to make all the possible triad types, major, minor, diminished, and augmented, you should have a pretty strong grasp on what chords are, some common types of chords, and how to build them. After today's video on chords, and since part 1 of our music theory series was on scales, next time we're going to be talking about how chords and scales relate to each other, so definitely keep an eye out for that and tune in. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching part 2 of my music theory video series. If you have any questions about something we covered in the video or an idea for something you'd like me to cover in a future video, please leave a comment down below. Or just let me know what you liked about the video. I'd love to get a conversation going. That's all for now. I'm Hilbun. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.